No.
I didn't even look. I don't wanna know.
Well, I don't have central heat, so I'm kind of like sad.
Oh,
It's very cold. Yeah, I had central heat for 2 years.
you still, without-
Yeah, still without because it was so wet, we can't fix our bait. It's like you're digging in mud and clay and you're, because the water table is higher, it's just pours in as you're, so we have two sump pumps. And it's never been, but it just, there's nowhere for it to go. So, yeah, it's been a joy. If I could just get the forms in onto the wall and the rocks down, then I can run it through the,
Yeah,
I have polylock channel that runs on one side.
Okay, the meeting of the Enfield Conservation Commission will come to order. Please announce your name so that Mrs. Whitney can record the attendance. Start with Shirley.
Shirley Green.
Jay Wellens.
You feel okay tonight, Whitney? You don't look so good.
I'm just tired. We had a COVID situation the last week and then
You're out of jail, but now
And
you're
today's
tired.
my out of jail day, yeah, but now I'm
Kate,
just
you want to
tired.
announce your name so it can be.
Sure, I'm Kate Stewart.
Ed Rippey.
Gerald Tice. Next, item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the November 2023 meetings. And we have actually two groups of minutes to approve. One was on November 2nd. And then there was that meeting for the boxes that was held for the public, but that the meeting did not have a quorum, but nevertheless, there's the minutes there that I gave you. So are there any corrections or additions to the minutes from the November 2nd, 2023 meeting?
Yeah, I have some that I'd like to make, and I made copies of what I would like to add to the minutes, and I'm gonna pass it around to people. First, I want to say thank you for catching the essence of what I said when I got up and shared about our situation. You hit the nail on the head and covered the stuff that I wanted to, but I just have a few refinements that I wanted to make sure we got in, so I made copies, so you can have one of them.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Ed.
Yeah. Stick together, but.
I have two, Ed.
Oh, okay.
You need another copy? Is Lee coming? We don't know.
You can
Or
leave. one
Carol.
there.
In case Lee shows up.
Sure.
Carol
Carol.
Wyman.
No, I saw her Tuesday. I'm like,
Is this my copy?
Yes, yes. Okay, all right, so I refer to the line number on the minutes here. So under the discussion that we had about our situation on Holly Drive, I wanted to just add in, the first one is on line 47, where it says the culvert is owned by the Holly Drive Private Road Association. I just wanted to get the official name of our group on there, which is the Holly Drive Road Maintenance Association. And we go by HDRMA sometimes too. And then after line 51, I would like to add that statement that said, all residents owning property on the entire Crystal Lake would also be adversely affected due to stormwater runoff if the culvert fails again. Shirley, I think you said that.
I don't,
You might have said that at the meeting. I meant to say it. I
I don't-
might have started to say it, but I think you said it more clearly.
is
And
it, and it was said during the
it was
meeting.
said during the meeting. So that's why I wanted that in there, because that's important.
yeah, because we can't, if it wasn't said, we can't add.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So we don't know who said it.
I
We could look at the video, right?
Yeah, if I might have said it, but not in those words.
Yeah, paraphrasing is okay. It's
Yeah.
not a
I
transcript.
might, but I don't know. I don't remember.
I can check the video.
Yeah, I remember,
Lee.
Sorry, I just
Flew in from Maine.
Oh, my goodness. Carol Wyman was offline and she asked the question, she said, Ed, who would this directly affect? And that's when I said about the 10 people that lived beyond us at the house, beyond our house. And then I
Sorry.
said something about the entire lake
Well,
and
it's
somebody else.
possible I said that.
I
It
think,
would.
yeah,
It would.
anyway.
I'm not trying to block you. I can't see my laptop. 'Cause I forgot my glasses. I almost
Do you want
forgot.
to borrow my glasses?
No. You don't have two stigmatisms. and
No, okay.
prisms.
Okay. So the next thing that I have in here, is something that I'm adding for information, which wasn't, I might have said it at the meeting that it was a separate committee, a separate group, but I thought it would be good for clarification for the future, because when we bring this back to the committee for,
But can we do that?
You can't add it till
You
the
can't.
last meeting, but you could add it as a comment right now, an explanation. So it
okay,
could be,
Okay.
when you're giving your corrections, you could be like, just to clarify, if I didn't in the last meeting and say
Yeah.
this, right? Cause it gives it to
Yeah.
a set of meeting minutes. It's just, you can't change minutes if they didn't.
yeah, and is that doable on your end?
I'm sorry, what?
So if, like he wants to add a clarification, I was saying it could be noted in this meeting under
In
the
the
minutes
meeting
discussion.
minutes, yeah.
Yep, under the minutes discussion,
Yep.
so it would
Okay.
effectively do what you wanna do.
Okay,
Is that for this middle one?
I think it's the,
Or this
Last.
it's the last
section?
one,
Okay.
yeah, that's all a clarification. Because even to people that live on a road, some of those folks get the two groups mixed up. And I can say why, because they sound, those names are very similar. But it's important to know that it's two separate groups. There's everybody on the block, that's the Road Maintenance Association. And then the Poly Drive Association is just the 11 families that
Okay.
own that plot of land across the road.
I can add that to tonight's minutes.
Okay. That's all.
That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, I have some additions on line 97. It should read the Conservation Trust Fund. We need to keep a separation between what is the trust fund and what is the conservation fund. And my intention was to draw this money from the trust fund if our conservation fund was overdrawn. And the same should be put in at line 99.
when you say conservation fund, do you mean the budget?
Conservation fund is the budget, but the conservation trust fund is a different source of revenue. And these were from the trust fund. Are there any other additions or corrections to the minutes?
No, sir. Not from me.
Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, so approved.
Agenda.
Since there was no quorum present from the Conservation Commission, I don't know that we need to approve the minutes from the,
Yeah, you wouldn't. I mean, it's a subcommittee. You've made it as a subcommittee anyways, but I took the notes so that they would be there for everybody. So you'd have them as a reference.
they don't need to be approved necessarily?
No.
Okay, so
I
those
mean,
are for your.
Without a quorum, we don't have to take them, but I thought you guys might like to see them.
Sure, that's fine.
But a lot of stuff was covered.
Mhm.
Okay, I would like to introduce Ms. Ennis. Are you Ms. Ennis?
Yes.
Yes, would you please take a seat down there at the end of the table next to the secretary, please? Mrs. Ennis has come here to address us regarding some wetland that she wants to try and preserve. So I will turn the table over to her and let her tell us what it is that she's interested in doing and where it is.
Thank you.
Can I just get your name?
Yep, Marcy, Marcy,
And you're a Grafton, right? Not Enfield.
and my last name is Innes, Innes. I do live near you. Yes. right
You're in
behind
Grafton.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. I was like, I think you're
This
just.
land, this land is in Enfield though, yeah. So, my siblings and I have, an 18-acre parcel of land that we've inherited. That is located in Enfield. It's at the sort of southeastern end of Mascoma Lake, and it's, a pretty critical part of the Mascoma watershed. Most of it is wetlands. And it runs along Shaker Boulevard. It's a wooded parcel, opposite many of the houses that run along the, that end, the sandy beach end of the lake. You know which one I'm
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Yeah. So we have inherited it, and unfortunately, we've inherited it with, somebody who's not in our family, who it sort of was left to someone. So we own 50% of it. And she owns 50% of it. And, we've all sort of come to consensus that we would really like to conserve this piece of land. And I know that Enfield is putting together will shortly have a watershed plan in place. I serve on the Mascoma Lake Association, and so I know, Jim Martell and Mark Nicky, who I think are working on that. And so I thought I would so we're just kind of in the beginning phases of trying to figure out how we will do this, or if the town has any interest in it. We're gonna have to raise some money to buy out this other person. But then the four of us would be donating our 50% investment in this land. So I've been in touch with the Upper Valley Land Trust, and, I've been talking to, Jeannie McIntyre about, like how some of those funds might be raised or how we would go about doing that. We did have an appraisal done on the land, but apparently we didn't use the right kind of appraiser, so we may have to have that redone. But I did pull a map off of, the National Wetlands Registry, and as you can see on the map, it's pretty much all of it is wetlands, so.
That Knox Brook right there?
No, this is the Knox Brook, and this
Okay.
is called the Brown Brook.
Oh, okay.
The Brown Brook that just runs by the Harvey place.
Gotcha. So that's your, the bottom line is yours.
Yes, I put a little kind of past them.
Right.
How much does the town raise it?
$614.
I don't know.
That's because it's $614 because of the way it's being taxed, so it's
Oh,
not.
yeah, it's in current use. It's
Yeah,
current
so
use.
it's not,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
not.
you can't use it
So
for
there's no
anything.
value on it
Yeah.
other than that?
No,
Oh,
I mean, it is apparently, we've been told it's buildable. I mean, we could sell it as building lots. If we did that, it would be pretty horrible
how
because
could you sell it as building lots if it's all wetland?
we had somebody, well, my uncle had somebody come in and survey it, and apparently can be divided into 3 or 4 building lots. But that's a good question. I don't,
Yeah.
I
think
wouldn't
you would
DES
make
looked
it.
at it?
sorry, what?
Has the DES looked at it, the department?
No, so I don't really know what I'm doing or how to go about this.
That's why you're
So
here.
that's why I'm here, yeah.
If it's all wetlands, I would be doubtful. You could
Well,
build
so,
on it.
but if you look on the FEMA flood map, it's
You're
not a
not
flood
it.
zone.
No,
So
you're
that
not.
doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand.
Hmm.
It's like up where we are, though. It's very wet where we are. We're on the top of the mountain, right?
Yeah.
And it's super
This
wet.
is super
We-
low. This
yeah.
land is really.
No, I know. My family lives on the boulevard.
We're
but
actually 10 feet from the water and we're considered not a flood zone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it doesn't, the
Doesn't
FEMA
most
make
of
any
us
sense to me.
consider-
it's the vegetation
You would
type.
have to get a certified wetland scientist to evaluate
Okay.
that property before it could be set up for any building.
Okay,
That's all I'm
so
saying.
have to go to the New Hampshire Environmental.
Yes, you would have to request a wetland scientist. It doesn't necessarily have to come from the DES, but he has to be a certified wetland scientist to make an evaluation of that property's buildability. The other question I want to ask you is, what is the amount of funds you're looking for to buy out that other owner?
I guess we don't really know. So I had Doreen Wyman, who's a residential appraiser. She did an appraisal that I brought a copy of, and it came out to about $225,000. So whatever half of that is, I would assume. However, in talking to the woman at the Upper Valley Land Trust, she said it has to be a different kind of appraiser. It has to be not a residential appraiser, but somebody that the DES approves of.
Well, I might recommend that you get a wetland scientist to give an appraisal of that land itself
Okay,
from the standpoint of buildability. And that, if they decide that the lot is a wetland property, the appraisal of that land will drop dramatically.
Yeah, okay, all right. So that's probably the first thing that we should do.
May I ask again how many acres you said there are there?
It's a little 18 plus or minus.
And how much frontage you?
There's a lot of
Oh,
frontage
it's
on
wide.
Shaker Boulevard, yeah,
It's, I'm looking at the map.
yeah.
It's a lot.
But you'd like to conserve it and not have it developed, is what you're hoping to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
What's
You,
the-
going
what's
to
the
the Upper
building?
Valley Land Trust was the best place to start.
Okay.
What's
Okay,
the building here? On it?
good. There is no building on it. I don't
It's
know.
like a truck, maybe then maybe they caught a truck on the map.
Oh, is it a little? Are you looking at Google Earth?
No, I'm looking at our GIS map. So this
Where do you
is,
see a building?
it's very fuzzy, so, but it's,
Oh,
it could be a truck.
That's a, no, that's my, that's where I keep my boat. That's a,
Okay.
it's a,
Yeah,
whatever you call it, pop-up tent. Yeah.
that's,
The only thing that's in there is my boat.
oh, okay, so, yeah, so if it's, and that's considered a building. But it can come down easily enough.
If it's a tent and portable, it's not considered a building.
It is, yeah, even to put the igloos up down, at the restaurant at 20 Hands, they had to get a permit.
Really?
Yep, it's considered, it's very interesting. I was surprised. I thought it wasn't either, but.
So. Okay,
So,
carry on.
okay, so, yeah, so I'm kind of working my way through this process. I don't know. I mean, is this appealing to the town of Enfield to have this land preserved? I would imagine it would be.
I,
Yeah. Well, it's certainly appealing to the Conservation Commission, whether it's appealing to the planning board and this board of selectmen is
Hopefully,
something else. But this is the data that you could get from
Okay.
the wetland scientists that would make it more likely to be denied building permits.
That would be great. Okay,
and hopefully the Mascoma Lake Association will want to support you in this too.
I'm sure they would, but they don't have any funds.
But I mean, there's other ways, there's ways to support you, just,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And, they certainly can help you with your communications with the Upper Valley Land Trust.
I think the only person I've been in touch with is, Jim Martell,
Mhm.
who isn't on the Mascoma Lake Association, but I think he's the most knowledgeable about wetlands, and he's walked the property with me, and, Alan Strickland has been on the land with me, and he marked all the boundaries for me, which was really nice. So,
I'd get a wetland scientist, maybe even from DES.
You know what I can
Then you
tell
don't
you?
have to go through a whole lot of people. You'll get the information you want right first
Okay.
time.
I'm not in the soil map right now, but I think you would like to look at the soil map for the state of New Hampshire. That immediately abuts the Horvath property
yes.
and the former Mersky property. That is some of the best soil in New Hampshire for
Mm.
farming. That whole stretch, just because of the nature of how it was created. So I think that's another very good argument for not digging it up and.
That's
running it.
great.
So yeah, take a
We
look
can
at the
find out.
soil maps, because I'm sure if all of your neighbors have fabulous soil, it'd be very unlikely that you don't.
What is the fabulous soil called?
I don't remember all of the names of the different types of soil, but if you look on the soil map, it shows it in zones and then it gives the types of soil, like, so up where we are, we have like Grafton, loamy soil, Grafton sandy, right? There's all these different, we happen to have a lot of Grafton names. Mine divides right across my house. With more rocks on one side and less on the other, but yeah, so you'll be able to see, I mean, and the soil maps aren't exact, but they're very helpful in determining like the hydrology and how it works, so I think you might find those helpful too. I used to, work for Blue Ox, which farms that same.
Yeah.
Farm that same
Right,
stretch.
right. What, it was former farmland. Yeah, it was a cleared field,
Yeah.
like in the early 60s, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
We, in our natural resources inventory, we listed the farmland that's important to Enfield and the farmland that's important to the state of New Hampshire. And there are maps there. If you living in Grafton probably didn't receive a copy, but I can provide you with one.
It's also,
Oh, you know what? I have
email you.
some in my car. I'll go get them.
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
not as exact as the GIS map, but it'll give you a rough idea, and it's listed by property tax map and lot number.
Do you have the page that the plot is
I'm
on?
looking at, map 23. And looking at the lots. I'm not sure which one. This is the town map, so there's the Knox Brook River.
So it's a
And then
Oh, it's
11.
one more. Okay, it's one more.
Yeah, it's the.
Sometimes they're not in
cemetery, so one-
sequence, but we'll see.
What page is it?
I think.
23.
This
That's
is
cool.
right here. This is.
Oh,
over
it's like-
here.
Oh, it's farther setback, so
It's
that's,
24. Part of it too. It goes, it's
Like
like.
you-
okay, so we'll go to this map. So that is map 11. See, that's what I thought.
Mhm.
Ah,
Cause 23 is this little teeny piece.
I think it's not 23. It kind of,
It's
it's,
20.
looks like, hang on, let's go to 11 and see what that.
I'm on map, yeah, if you try 11, because this is parcel, it's this, the number is 011-024. Yeah,
Okay, here we go. There we go. This is a different view.
1124.
It's 24, yeah.
There's 24, yeah, okay.
That's it.
This is the road.
this is the dot in it, because
Oh,
and these are all little teeny, but it's just.
Well, that's
like
Shaker
that.
Boulevard and that's the old.
Oh, and we have
Yeah,
this up here.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm very familiar. with
It's
it.
actually a really nice big chunk. If you see where it says Shaker and Boulevard, right where Boulevard is,
Yeah.
the BLVD up there is right over that lot.
Good.
So it's a substantial chunk at the end of the lake.
I'm lucky I can see Crystal Lake.
I'm not wearing my glasses. I'm missing my
You
glasses.
got amazing eyes.
No, well, I've already had eye surgery. I'm allowed to drive, I just,
Thank you, Joe.
You left with.
yeah, it's right there.
It's
Yep.
right here.
Yep.
Thanks for that.
So, I mean, that just gives you an
Okay.
idea of it's
Okay.
right in the middle of town, right, too.
Okay,
Where is it? I'm sorry, 23 or 24?
24.
Didn't you 23?
If you look where it says Shaker Boulevard, where it says BLVD at the end of the lake.
Yeah,
Yep, that's that big lot under the BLVD. The big one.
right
Yep.
here.
Yep.
Oh, it's across the road.
Yeah, it's not on the water, it's across the
Okay.
road from
Is
all
there
the,
any, is there, lake?
No lake access.
That's good.
Yeah, because that makes it even less valuable. Yeah.
Didn't you just have a building permit?
it's up around the corner. That's like a thing.
Trying to put a septic system in right here, it was.
I would suspect the people who live across from that would want it protected and help.
I'm sure they would. I'm
Yes,
sure they would.
well, Jim is one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a
People
little
like
bit
to walk
further.
in there and
Planning.
There's
And-
no rights to, there's no lakefront.
there's no lake front.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I
but-
mean, we used to have a house on the lake that went with that property.
Yeah.
That we sold that.
Okay, sold it separately. So
Yeah.
that land is just kind of, yeah.
It's out there by itself.
So
The
by itself.
Hinmans are right there too.
The Hinmans are right there, yeah.
I'm sure they would like to see
It's
that.
great, I'm sure it's a great wildlife habitat,
A
really.
lot of deer, yeah, it is a really nice deer yard, yeah, there's a lot of, and, because it is so wet, there's lots of always frogs and peepers and all kinds of
All
things.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Birds.
Birds, lots of birds, yeah.
It's a
Do you have, it's a brushy, like
Well,
berries in there. I know Fuller Road is brushy.
Some of it is, yeah, so my grandfather planted like a Christmas tree farm and then he died, and so the Christmas trees like
Oh,
are
they did
really
their
tall
thing.
and now they're all falling down, so.
The balsams, they're balsams.
No, they planted like red pines, I
Oh,
don't know why he did that, but.
no, I have friends who cut those. It's a popular tree just down
Yeah,
here.
so.
The trees are good. They generally absorb a lot of the runoff.
Yeah, and he also took out some of the wetlands, so there is also like the possibility of like restoring them back to the way they were, so he dug irrigation ditches and which are still there that you can still see that sort of went around, and so.
Yeah, around the
He did-
perimeter.
He did fill in like some of the wetlands, so there is a possibility of like mitigation as well.
Yeah.
Or
Did he
restoration.
not have a permit to do that?
Well, this was back in the 60s, I think you could pretty much do whatever you wanted, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
That's how all those stone walls got in the lake. Right?
Are there
People-
stone walls in the lake?
There's tons of them all along this side of the lake. People built themselves a wall and they've done.
Yeah. So,
That's why we have lots of problems now.
So in my estimation, the first thing you need to do is to get a wetland scientist to
Okay.
evaluate that land. Then you need to decide, what the land is actually worth in terms of building sites and take that to the other owner of the property and
Yeah.
point out to them that it isn't worth what they think it is because nobody can build on it. Then if you can come up with a price that you need to acquire to buy out that individual, then is the time to start applying to Upper Valley Land Trust or other groups to help you collect that money.
Great.
And,
Okay.
yeah, and they, don't think that it isn't valuable just because it's wetlands. It may
Yeah.
not be valuable for development, but it's very valuable to protect it.
Well, exactly.
And
And
that's
I,
where you're coming from.
and that's
Yeah.
why I'm here is
Yeah.
because like we
Yeah.
really want to protect it. And it was always so my mom's like dying wish that it be protected and put in my grandfather's name. So,
Nice.
yeah. And so we, you know, we want to honor that. And also like, I just love just going in there and hanging out because it's a lovely place. And, you know, if it were to be built on, it would have like mounted septic systems and it would
Yeah.
have, it would look ugly. It would ruin that whole end of the lake and,
Yeah.
I really don't want to see that happen. So, plus, you know, with everything that's happening with lakes and the cyanobacteria blooms, I think it's really important to keep this filtering system
I
like
agree.
working.
Exactly.
No, I agree
So-
with you. We're on your,
Yeah.
on your side, that's
So-
for sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you for your advice. And if you think of anything else, let me know and I'll sort of keep you updated about where we are.
Sure.
Yes, I think you should keep the Conservation Commission, available or at least advised.
Okay.
I'm resigning as the chair and resigning from the commission at the 31st of December, so there will
Okay.
be a new chairman appointed.
All right.
And you can contact the Conservation Commission by writing to the town hall.
All right. I will do that.
So they should be then aware of the need for you to come and talk to us at some time in the future.
Okay.
And I think once you get that information, that would be the time for you to come back to the Conservation Commission and then the Conservation Commission may have had time to look into the possibility of funding for the purchase of that other individual's portion.
Okay.
You yourself are going to donate your.
We're donating. Yeah.
Okay,
Because there's 4 of us and we don't really, it's not gonna be tons of money for us anyway. I think we'd rather just like to be able to go there
Yeah.
and walk around.
yeah, well, it can be taken off as a charitable
Mhm.
donation on your income tax.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So that's something that to keep in mind.
So you've had good dialogue with the other owners on, like, no,
Um,
like,
I
no
think it's
dialogue.
gonna be difficult.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be difficult.
Okay.
They live in Connecticut. They,
How'd they end up with it?
that's a great question. My uncle, so it was owned by my grandparents and it was owned by my mother and her brother.
Okay.
Her brother left it to his second wife, not to his biological children.
So it just filtered down through that family.
Yeah,
Seen that happen before.
yeah, this is what happens, and right now she's saying she doesn't want to do anything with it. I think she wants to leave it to her children, and we're like, no, we're not gonna go there because it's gonna end up going to so many different heirs that there'll be 10 people trying to figure out what it's, no, we're gonna try to buy her out if we can, and
It'd be nice to give her the information that it really isn't buildable.
So
That
we
would-
have to, like,
That would be
we
really.
have to build our case that it's not buildable. Yeah, that's what we have to do, so, okay.
All right, well, we'll help you with
That's
that.
my job. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Right.
Take care.
Thank you for catching my dog the other day.
Oh, I didn't want to get hit by a car.
Yeah, I was trying to yell to her, but I had COVID.
That's okay.
Okay, moving on to the old business. You have a notice that the permit for the second dock on Shaker Boulevard has been approved. That has come up sometime before, but this is the final decision by the Department of Environmental Services to do that. And they list all of the various requirements that the people must adhere to in order to do that. So they're looking over that, or watching that apparently closely. The Next item of business is a documented violation of the land that was purchased from Freight as a former quarry and was attempting to be turned into a writing academy by Nicole Site. What's happened is that they built a structure over the little creek for logging purposes, and they didn't get a permit for doing so, and so the DES has documented a violation, and they're going to continue to watch the area so that that crossing is properly corrected. I
Yes.
know that she's lost that property already, but I guess this violation falls on her shoulders irregardless.
You lost it? I mean, you lost it.
Is that, I was told that she has not been able to continue either the payments or
Oh,
given up the
okay.
land or whatever,
Yeah.
but I'm told that Mrs. Stewart.
I just didn't know what you meant by lost.
I don't know what she's doing. I just know that she's not planning to build there. That's all I was told. So I was surprised to see it because you'd think there wouldn't be activity on November 14th. That's pretty recent.
Maybe he's hoping to get more money for it or something.
I mean, it's a timber mat, like, you know, the same kind of mats you use to like cross lawns and kind of wooded areas. I wouldn't put them at brook, but I was a little surprised to see that. Any activity up there. Did someone here, did conservation turn them in or something, or it says, but received photo documentation, so somebody turned them in.
Evidently, I don't think it's come before us.
No.
Just didn't, no.
There was never even an intent to cut wood that came before us, if that's what she was doing in logging.
I went to a planning board, a select board, and she came in because of the trailer, that she was living in a small trailer.
Mhm.
And there was a
That was some time
time,
ago.
yeah,
They
and,
gave her-
and that was the last I heard about.
They
her.
gave her permission to live there. The trailer is still there. They
This is
gave
not
her
living.
permission to live there for another 6 months, which I think is up. But at any rate, I own some property along Bog Road, so I drive down that way periodically to check that. And the trailer is still there yesterday. Anyway, that's not our pre-bid. Okay, the next item of business is an intent to cut wood on tax map 9, lot 75, block 4 and 5. There's an estimate of 30 tons of cord wood, 30 cords that has to be cut. And it's by the owner.
Tax map 9, you said?
Tax map 9, lot 75, block 4 and 5.
It's the corner of Fuller Road.
Yep.
We don't have a lot to say about timbering, so
Unless it
somebody-
involves a wetland.
unless it's got something.
That's, did you know the corner where you go up as you head towards the old Gemstar gemstone, and it's a very sharp corner on Shaker Boulevard, and Fuller Road is a class 6. It's there.
Okay, this.
So it's up on the hill there where it's like the rocky corner.
Don't quite understand their anticipated start date, which is listed as 6.5411. So maybe,
No, those are the acreages of the lots. See, there's 2 lots, right? So they split it across the 2 lines,
oh,
right? And so 10/30/23 is the
oh,
anticipated
okay,
start date. Yeah.
11:30 is what I got, okay.
Lloyd is my uncle. I recognize his handwriting.
Oh, good for you.
I was like, I know what this says.
So do they have a purpose of,
They don't need a purpose for cutting wood for
I'm just
themselves.
curious if it was clear for a house lot or. if it
They
was
have a
just-
house there, so that number that you see there, 435, that is their house. They already have,
So they have a house right there.
yeah. Yeah. It's part of Mascoma Heights.
Oh,
Right, Fuller Road goes up to the heights and
Is it?
over. Yeah,
Oh,
so
yes,
your
it
daughter
is.
could walk up and over. I
Yeah.
grew up there.
Yeah. I wasn't even thinking where I was.
Might get a few blackberry brambles.
That's a lot of firewood.
Yeah, 30 cords.
Well, you may be telling some of it, but that's their prerogative.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments?
Look,
Okay, so now, the next thing is the correspondence, and something I think you all should be aware of is that after some, nearly 17 years, the Supreme Court has finally made a decision in regard to Sackett versus EPA. You've all read that, you know that it involved property in Idaho, but since it's a Supreme Court decision, it affects the entire United States. And basically, what they decided was that not only does a landowner have the right to go to court to challenge the Clean Water Act order of the Environmental Protection Agency, but the Environmental Protection Agency does not have the right to control the activities of land that does not immediately reach the waters of the United States. The Supreme Court limits Clean Water Act jurisdiction over adjacent wetlands to those having a continuous surface connection to bodies that are waters of the United States in their own right, with no clear demarcation between waters and wetlands. So any wetland that doesn't necessarily have a surface connection to waters of the United States may be protected from EPA regulations regarding construction there. The Sacketts had filled in a large portion of the property that they were planning to build a house on. And for 17 years, it sat there while it went through the courts. Now,
It was unanimous.
it said that the court was unanimous that the Sackett land does not fall within Environmental Protection Agency jurisdiction under the Clean Water Act. So the question, of course, we need to keep in mind is regard to the prime wetlands here in Enfield. If you consider that the prime wetland along Bog Road drains into the pond there,
George
George
Pond.
Pond, which drains into the Knox River, which drains into the Mascoma Lake, which drains into the Mascoma River, which drains into the Connecticut River. Now, I don't know for certain that any of those areas beyond, back from the Connecticut River are considered to be waters of the United States. They may be, but the Connecticut River surely is. So in point of fact, the George Pond area and the wetland along the Bog Road does have surface connections to waters of the United States if the Connecticut River is considered waters of the United States. And under those circumstances, the EPA would have jurisdiction over anything built there. And that will be of some benefit to us. The Supreme Court also said that it applied to wetlands, not just prime wetlands. So there may be in the upper part of Enfield, wetlands around places like Spectacle Pond and so on may not have a clear drainage into wetlands of the United States or waterlands of the United States. So they may be not protected by EPA. But that's something for you people to consider from now on when you get any kind of building permits along prime wetlands or wetlands. Is whether they drain into surface waters that go down to waters that are under the control of the EPA. If they aren't, then there's going to be local jurisdictions that you'll have to apply to. If they are, then you can contact the EPA and get some assistance in controlling what goes on there from them. everybody understand that?
I can tell you, the state of New Hampshire has very little interest in Gulf Brook, because I was trying to work with them. Because Spectacle Pond's not having issues with flooding, right up to the road, and it was dangerous during the time of the year that, there was a lot of rain. And there were a number of neighbors who wanted to kill the beaver, who apparently is named the Plumley Beaver, because he's on my property right now. He's apparently dug, in 2 weeks, he's dug quite the series of trenches. He's a very industrious little beaver, but there's a
Well, this
rear.
is the time of the year they do it too.
I know, we went out, and normally where you walk, it's kind of like fieldy and marshy, and poof, there was like an entire set of water slides. I was like, oh, that's special. But he's built another, one, and I wanted to see if the state could come in and just make something that was a halfway point, right? Where the beaver got to be happy and people got to be, everybody got to be partially unhappy. I bounced around and around and around, because we bought the property to just keep it, right? And I don't really want to go killing anybody, but not if they're not food. So I found New Hampshire DES to be not terribly receptive to helping. Like, we were looking for a hydrologist or somebody to work on it, because I think the folks on the pond are, they're seeing it back up into some of their buildings and stuff. It was very interesting and eye-opening. If you take out, you are allowed to take out the dam as a homeowner. And I was like, whoa, what? But if you damage downhill, you're liable, right? So what happened in Canaan, right? They lost the Gulf on South Road, which comes from the Gulf Brook. So it's been a very interesting, because it's kind of the great joy of being out there, is getting to see all of those creatures and their activity, but.
Well, I was curious why last November's moon was called a beaver moon. So I looked it up and it said it's the busiest time of the year for beavers.
Busy beaver.
And that's why the moon is so, they call it a beaver moon.
There was
so
a big
they
beaver
run
moon.
night
I know that.
working. Yeah,
Huh,
So when all those pictures, people took up the hill and were like, hey, look at the moon, that's the beaver moon.
yeah. The beavers are out there.
I'm naming the beaver moon.
so
Ready.
what's going on? What's happening?
Nothing, it's my property, they can't go on it without written permission. Da, 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 da.
The Fish and Game does provide, people to come and trap those beavers and move them to some other areas. If that, would be, then the dam would gradually fall apart.
No, not the dam. See how there's a small pond kind of midway up the Gulf Brook? That's basically an earthen one at this point. It's very, very solid. You can walk on it.
Oh, I'm talking about the beaver dam.
Yeah, that was the original beaver dam, and they tell great stories about in the 70s how they used to dynamite it, and I was like, no, we don't dynamite things. There are people who have permits for that. So there's a newer one that they're starting. That one they could do something about, but this one would cause, like, you'd have to have someone work on what would happen to the downstream. Like, I'm definitely not qualified, so. So the beaver seems very happy.
I'm sure. Okay, well,
That was
that's something else
the
that
beaver
we don't
moon.
have anything to do with. Okay, the next communication was with regard to distinctive impacts to buffers. This is from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, which I am a member. So they sent this to me, and it's actually a request for those communities that have wetlands and surface water buffers in your ordinance. Have you found an effective way to get applicants to reduce buffer impacts for projects? And I don't know that we have any wetland and surface water buffers in the ordinance, other than the one we passed at a warrant article that has a setback regulation down from prime wetlands for 100 feet. Does Kate, do you know if there's any other ordinances regarding wetland buffers that we haven't, I know that there's a 50-foot one supposedly from wetlands, but I don't know that there's any more of that.
We tried probably 10, 12 years ago to get something like that, but it wasn't well received by the planning board. They felt it was an invasion of people's rights.
The last time it went to the planning board, I was on planning board, and I'm thinking that what we were being asked to do was already part of our zoning stuff.
See, the DES would like to see towns take more responsibility and even have the rules a little stronger than the state rules to try to protect. And our town is a good example of, a very important reason to do that because of all the lake frontage we have. And it's very valuable resource.
Hmm.
So we should take it seriously.
Well, we did in terms of the prime wetlands with that 100-foot setback. Because the town had only a 50-foot setback when we put that into view. So the
That's
planning
good.
board should be obliged to, obey that particular warrant article.
Mhm.
There's another comment here from Meredith. Meredith has a 150-foot setback from
Mhm.
wetlands. So we're not necessarily, as aggressive as others, but at least we are better than we used to be. So that's something that, you may want to watch, and bring to the planning board from time to time. If they are remiss in monitoring our warrant article.
I think there's becoming a lot more awareness of the problems that stormwater runoff can cause and how buffers can help prevent that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about the fact that prevention is much better than the cure, so we can get ahead of them, that's fine. The last piece of correspondence was from the, Upper Valley Land Trust with regard to the protected habitats for wildlife and the importance of keeping corridors open for wildlife and accessing, or at least establishing some kinds of signs to warn the public from the safety standpoint that there is a known wildlife corridor that crosses roads. Much of Enfield has already been highly fragmented by roads of one kind or another. And it has cut up a lot of the potential wildlife corridors that we mapped in our natural resources inventory. So the effect of this on wildlife, not just the large wildlife, but things like salamanders and turtles that move from one area to another for breeding and activities, is a serious potential for their decline in numbers. And one of the things that has been done in some places is the building of tunnels underneath roads and even overpasses. They are far too expensive for Enfield, I'm sure, to undertake, but those are places that have been documented to be used by large animals and moving across major highways like 89. I've talked to some people over in Plainfield, and they tell me that the worst areas for wildlife being hit on 89 is off ramp 14 through 17. And apparently the carcasses there are fairly numerous. I picked up 2 deer this year on one on Shaker Hill Road where it joins Klug Road, and another one on 4A. Both years. In fact, I don't know what happened or why they did it, but the deer that was hit on Klug Road was a buck. And they sawed off its horns and left the body. So there are people here who basically
Make
don't
lights,
really give a damn.
lamps, make
Yeah.
lamps out.
I don't know that signs would affect them one way or the other, but we've got potential problem with wildlife crossings here being compromised by roads.
They just gave Vermont, governor just gave, quite a bit of money to build some of these, either bridges over or tunnels under some of the, interstates where the wildlife kill is pretty high.
Yeah,
So there's
imagine
gonna be
91 is something, who got the money, or where did they
The
get the?
governor of Vermont, did you hear about that?
No, I didn't. I'm not surprised.
Yeah,
The
because,
governor of Vermont.
I don't know where the money came from, but it was substantial.
Well, it'd
And
have to be for that kind of.
and
thing.
so-
I'm sure we can't get the new that.
But I thought that was pretty neat, cause you see it out west
Mhm.
there. I have a question, if I might. Since you're leaving, how is it going to work with us getting information from the New Hampshire Conservation?
Well, I was going to discuss that. It would be useful
Okay.
for the chair of the Conservation Commission or any member of the Conservation Commission here to apply, because since I am leaving the Conservation Commission here, and they only allow 3 members on the board of directors that are not members of a Conservation Commission, I cannot stay on the New Hampshire
Oh,
Board of, New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commission, but there will be an opening by my leaving, because I can't belong anymore. So, that would be something that whoever you decide to be the chair of the committee, could apply to them. There is a fairly amount of activity that goes on there, meetings, they're all held online as well, but there are some that require individuals to come to. And all the meetings are held in Concord, so it's an hour's drive down, hour's drive back, but usually in the winter time, they do it on Zoom. They don't use Teams, they use Zoom. But that would be one way to keep in touch. Now, as far as my helping the Conservation Commission, I'm more than more than willing to try and answer questions you may have, because I still have connections through Barbara Richter with the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, even though I'm not.
Now, do you know for sure one of those openings of a non-conservation commission person wouldn't be open?
No, I'm told that they already have the 3 members that are not members of the Conservation Commission on the board, and that's all their bylaws allow. So if somebody wants to fill my spot, they would have to be a member of the Enfield Conservation Commission. Okay, the last thing is just an informational thing. I provided you with, if you didn't already have it, the names of the Methodist Hill Property Use Committee. You all have minutes. I appreciate everybody who turned up at that meeting on the 21st of November to, or the 5th, I guess, the 5th of December, sorry, to comment about our suggestions regarding the use of that property.
It was a good meeting.
it was.
Very interesting.
And that information, the genealogy of that land was amazing.
Yeah.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I went up to the Haverhill people at the county seat and dug up all the known deeds that were there.
It was amazing. Yeah, what you wrote. Yeah.
But at any rate, we'll have to see whether the committee takes that into consideration with regard to their advice or recommendations to the select board, and whether the select board will pay any attention to it at all. It seems to me equitably that, since we have Harrisbrook Park, we have Hughes Park, we have many trails in the eastern portion of Enfield, and there's nothing of comparable nature on the west part of Enfield, that from an equitable point of view, they ought to be entitled to a park. And that 100 acres is certainly something that could be well utilized as a park. It also has a lot of historical aspect. I don't know whether the Heritage Committee has ever been contacted with regard to the people who used to run that place, but Jonathan Bosworth was a longtime resident. He came here in 17 something and fought in the Revolutionary War, and he was on the Board of Selectmen for many years before he died. In fact, he was on the Board of Selectmen the last time 2 years before he died. Many of his relatives served in other areas. The sergeant, lady Emma Sargent, was also involved in that property from the very beginning of it. She bought it for $1 from her sister, I presume, Clara Sargent, in 1894. And it stayed in the Sargent family until one of the Sargents married a Bosworth. And then it became in the Bosworth name, and has remained there until 1990, when Vern O. Bosworth Jr. apparently was the last Bosworth owner and maybe the one who reneged on paying this, the property tax. But that's the last thing I got from the county seat as to the owners of the property. So anyway, I think it's worthwhile considering it to be a useful place for the town of Enfield to preserve, given the equity between what we have in East Enfield and what they have in West Enfield. And the history of West Enfield, which is in that compendium of Enfield's history that was written some time ago, points out that West Enfield was a thriving community, having lumber mills, grist mills, farms, until the railroad came to Enfield. And then everything moved across to Enfield. And the same happened when the seat of government was in Lock Haven. When the stagecoach came to Enfield Center, the business moved to Enfield Center.
That was
So
the main
transportation has influenced the community's
history.
kids a lot.
Yeah, it's
I have to
fascinating.
say, I'm glad it moved away from there.
Well,
What
whatever.
did you,
But, cause we would have been more like Enfield Village.
did you, Ed, did you ever read the history, the shape,
No, I got the name of the book.
it's,
Just-
I read it and I was at the town hall in Enfield Center helping out the Heritage Commission and I couldn't shut my mouth. I read that book like a week before over and over
Okay.
and I just couldn't.
But Lock Haven
Oh.
was way before the Shakers.
Oh, see,
Yeah.
I remember the big story. of
The
why they
potato
got
road is
Potato
named
Road.
the potato road
Yeah,
for a reason.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's the whole place is fascinating.
Are there any other business items you wish to bring up?
Yes, how do we go about having more of an impact on the laws or rulings or whatever in keeping the lake healthy? And, you know, I've been at several different, events at people's homes around the lake. And the conversation always comes up about how concerned everyone is about what's happening to the lake. All the silt runoff, all the cyanobacteria and everything. And at the last event I was at, it came up, one of the gentlemen does water testing and said that they're very limited as to what they can do as far as testing water on the lake, which I think is really,
Why are they limited?
they're limited because the people on the lake do not want them testing in front of their house.
Well, they don't own that one.
They
I
can
know,
get
but
in they can get in a boat and go to the surface, to the front of the property and collect water there.
Makes you
They
wonder
have-
why they don't
Yeah,
want
we've
to
never
test it.
heard
There,
That's,
there are people here who do not want anyone in front of their home, and I get earfuls from time to time, and I know that you can just go in a boat, but there are also people who don't want to know it's unsafe to swim because they only get one chance to swim and they'd rather just swim. So, well, you guys are all very concerned, and I am, and our family does not go in the lake. There are people who would rather not know about it, because if you don't know, it doesn't hurt you. No, I know, but I'm just telling you, I catch various sides
oh, I bet.
of
I
the
mean,
argument, and I am stunned because I think it's very, very serious to get Lou Gehrig's disease.
Yeah, to my knowledge, my husband has
that's true.
tested the lake water weekly from May to October for over 30 years.
Mm.
And, we've had anyone complain about,
really?
no, they are grateful.
Yeah.
Well,
Water
there's,
testing.
I think Crystal is a little different than Mascoma. You do have a larger area, right? And you have some areas along the backside which have had complaints over time.
You mean on,
On the
Mascoma?
Yeah.
People live back.
See, and you see how close together those houses are. They have a serious challenges with placing septic
do.
systems, right? And a lot of those camps are very, very old. So I think,
I've walked with a walking group there and there's several that have quite a smell.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah. And, that's why we need stronger rules. so
If there's a
people-
health
So
complaint,
what I was
Liam
thinking-
goes down and investigates it. So we've definitely done that as a town, but somebody would have to say, hey, I'm concerned that there's a sewage leak, right?
But see, that's
And
why
we
they.
need to
in
be
those
able to
areas-
give the people that are doing the testing the power to go in front of everyone's house and say, I am allowed to do this, whether you like it or not.
They have that power. They just can't go on their property. You just go, you go by boat.
Do it.
Cause we test whatever, I mean, whatever we can afford to do, we do all different types of tests throughout the summer. And it's very important. We do it weekly.
That's
Our
where,
program is with UNH, which does it weekly. And, the DES program, I believe, is once a month it's done, but, and then, but DES does come and check where there are any public areas.
Is it, you mean they come to Crystal Lake or they would go to any lake?
DES,
Yeah,
if we have a cyanobacteria, bloom, they'll come to Crystal Lake. But other than that, they wouldn't. They depend on, the lake person who's doing the lake water monitoring, because we do not have any, only the boat launch for public access. We have
Yeah.
no public access for swimming.
well, what I
Mhm.
suggest we do is have Jim Martell come in and talk to us as a group and tell us what they consider their limitations to be. I mean, is there any way that we can take what information we gather and go anywhere with it?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I'm planning to do that. I've been collecting water and sending it to the New Hampshire Department of Public Health for analysis for Enterobacter, which is a organism that they use to indicate human sewage contamination of fresh water and salt water. And we're finding them there, they're finding them there. So I'm gonna enlarge that activity. The problem with regards to septic systems is basically at the state. The state regulations regarding septic systems is that when you take a camp and change it into a 2 or 3-story building of a year-round residence, as opposed to a camp that has only a few months residence a year, you're not required to replace the septic system. You're required to put in a diagram or a regulation permit for a new septic system. If the old septic system fails, but you're not required to install it. Therefore, unless somebody is able to detect the septic system's failure, the owner can just ignore that. So part of this is the fact that the people who are being elected to the federal or the state government are definitely developmental oriented. They are more concerned about acquiring more property tax and so on than they are protecting the environment. And that's how these regulations are getting changed. They're even up now to consider altering some of the current use fees that are being allowed to be deducted from property tax. Whether or not anything goes through there, I don't know. The New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions is vehemently protesting any changes that would reduce the value of current use. But in my several years of being on the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions, I have seen the legislature just basically turn a blind eye to any recommendations that they have made.
Because they're so influenced by developers, and actually the real estate group is a
The
big
lobbyists,
one.
yeah, the lobbyists.
Lobbyists. I was invited to a meeting about I'm on the Lake Advocacy Committee for New Hampshire Lakes, and, so I was invited to a meeting at DES 2 or 3 years ago, and it was on this subject. And it was amazing. There were only 3 of us in that room that weren't developers that were there.
Wow.
So they have a lot of strength, a lot of power.
They do, and there's
Yeah.
good development and there's bad development. I mean, Jake's Car Wash was a perfect example of good development. You know, what I mean, he's taken into consideration the land that he's building on, and he's making sure that he doesn't harm the environment with what he's doing. And so development can be good, you know, and people do need places to live.
Sure do.
So we just need smarter developers. And, but you gotta start somewhere. So what my thought was, is to have Jim come in and start at the testing level and see what they feel like their limitations are, and then see what we can do to help them be able to accomplish what they need to.
Now, where did you hear there are limitations?
I'm not,
Cause I'm,
Limitations
the only
is the wrong-
limitation I know is money.
the limitate, that's probably a bad word to use.
Or staff, not enough people to do it.
Pardon me.
Or staff, not enough people.
No, they actually have
Yeah.
face-to-face confrontations, is what I'm hearing with,
Wow.
with homeowners. And that's what, one of the people who does the testing.
That's
And-
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well,
it is.
who's doing the testing?
And there's a group of people that,
They need to have it tested
Volunteer.
by a laboratory that is certified to do so.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
get the bottles and
They do
collect them
that.
and send them out.
Send them to where?
Probably DES, cause they do, their program is through DES.
I'm not sure where they do.
So,
send to a professional laboratory.
there's a
to
listing-
Actually be tested.
In September's newsletter from 2022, because we had been discussing this. So in the town newsletter in 2022, that's what I was looking for. And they listed, they gave a list of labs. There's the nearest lab is located in Lebanon, New Hampshire. So, but there's a listing of them, and I'm sure there's probably a more current one somewhere else. But I remember having an extensive discussion about this because there were some issues, and you can't just walk on someone else's property with the intent to test their water. But you can come in from the water's front, and there's nothing they can do,
No.
nothing.
Well,
Yeah, the
yeah,
lake
cause
water is
people
what's
can
important.
test their own.
Yeah, you need the lake water.
People can do their own testing and go
Yep.
to these different labs, but
Mhm.
I would suspect DES has their own lab, but maybe not. But UNH does. We send
Mhm.
all of ours to UNH and they send back a full report.
Well, if you're testing it for public health reasons, the best place to send it is the New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Public Health Department.
Yeah, but see, I don't know anything about that end of it, that's why.
I've been doing that, and it is expensive. They do charge for the services. But, it's a bona fide laboratory recognized as capable of culturing for those things, and they have said in their own regulations that they use Enterobacter as a indication of sewage contamination from humans. So was planning to do something on Mascoma Lake too, but I don't have any boat myself, and I don't know anybody who's got a boat for my use. But going up to the lake shore, as long as you're not on their property, they can't do anything about it because that lake belongs to the state of New Hampshire. So if you want to invite him, go right ahead and let the committee know that you have done so and.
Would anybody else be interested in having him come and, question him about what he does and,
Is he staying through Christmas or
huh?
is he staying through Christmas or when's he back?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know Jim Martell. All I
Yeah,
did is
they'll
find
be
out.
leaving.
I was gonna say, I think they're leaving, so we probably should book in springtime, but see.
Yeah.
No, he's very interesting, so. And
Yeah,
he was on the board of selectmen
Many years ago.
many years ago, so. Yeah, he's pretty good at, working through things, so I'm sure we can figure something out.
but that's just my thought, that's where I would start.
Yeah, well, it's surprising that there are people that complain, but then again, I guess there isn't. It isn't.
Nothing surprises anymore.
I mean, not all the camps are nice. right?
Pardon me?
Not all the camps are nice, right? People don't want people poking their nose in. New Hampshire, the closest lab is Endign and Lebanon.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I took my stuff to Endign, so, cause I can test your private well too.
Yeah, we
Which I-
tested our well water when we had a
I've gone in
problem
too.
at Endign.
Yeah,
They're
anyone
very
can do
efficient.
their own testing.
We did too.
Did it come out all right?
Yeah, it was fine.
Good. Good to know.
Do you have an artesian?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, you're very likely to be okay.
yeah, but we wanted the peace of mind because so many other things had gone wrong in
Sure.
that process that.
And not just that, but all the camps are so close together and everything, you just worry about the fact that your well may be infiltrated by someone else's septic system.
Yeah.
And,
Very likely. They had a big problem on Squam a few years ago, and they found out that what it was a type of, they had lost half their loons, and Squam is a big lake, there are a lot of loons on it, and they're well protected, they felt. But all of a sudden, they were dying off. They lost half of them. And it was from some industrial place that quite a ways away that was seeping into the lake.
Oh,
It was killing those loons. So that's how, it's just, you have no idea where it's coming from or how far away it is. Water, it can seep a long ways. Dangerous things.
Well, in addition to the downsloping of drainage into Mascoma and Crystal Lake, there are also rivers that drain into the lake that come from many distances. The stuff on Squam Lake was actually the fire retardant material, but many clothes and furnitures are sprayed with.
Not PFAS.
And those are problems. There was a well on 4 that was found to be contaminated with MTBE, which is an additive to gasoline that replaced lead. So the cars that pass through Enfield every day, back and forth, are a potential source of pollution that way too. But there's really little that can be done about that. But there are other things that can definitely be done and should be done. So those are items that you guys should seriously consider undertaking and inviting Mr. Martell to come here, in my estimation. I'm going to continue my work on Crystal Lake, and if I get an opportunity to do that, I'm going to do it on Mascoma Lake as well. Because
this is an irreplaceable resource, and for the town as well, because if these houses lose value because the lake is polluted, the town, the town loses money. People,
well, the pollution started decades and decades ago.
Yeah.
If you read in that book, you find that there were at one time at least 5 woolen mills in Enfield. And they all dumped their dyes, which were used mercury as in Mordan, into the Mascoma River, which emptied into the Mascoma Lake. And the sediment in the Mascoma Lake must be filled with mercury. The mercury is converted to methyl mercury by plants, and then is ingested by insects that are in the water, and it goes up the food chain through the fish. So the Fish and Game Department themselves have recommended that fish in Mascoma Lake not be consumed at all by pregnant women, and only a certain number be consumed a week by children growing. So there's a significant amount of mercury that's in the fish that has rendered the lake itself less desirable than it otherwise could be. But those are all historical events that occurred long before anybody thought about environment here. And there's damn little you can do about it.
Right.
I mean, everyone emptied their bed chambers into brooks and rivers, and their outhouses were over them, and you waited for the spring flood to clean your outhouse. It's not a good thing. At least we know better, and we can try to do better.
well, when we, built our house and they dug up the old septic system, because we were town sewer. We were lucky enough, so we had to pay a fortune to bring the pipe all the way down to our house. But, I was gonna be damned if I was gonna put in a septic system as close to the lake as we were. But, when we dug it up, the septic system that, was on the land was a tank, rusted and everything, with a pipe that went out to the stream, which ran along.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that's what there's still some of those exist.
That's why those people don't
350
want you
gallon
on their
tanks.
property.
50-gallon
That's
drums.
why they don't want you.
That's right.
Yeah.
50 I've seen people use 50-gallon drums.
And then a lot of times
But
people
if he needs more.
build, they make a place into a year-round house and still use that. tank.
Yeah.
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 That's why that regulation is so horrible, that they don't have to put in a new system.
But see, that's the thing, that there's so many resisting it. That, and the legislators listen to the big money.
And
But
there's,
if they know they're being watched, if they know that there is testing going on and you're gonna be held liable, should you have some, consistent bad testing in front of your house, I would think that that would make people think twice. I mean, I don't know. I've just got this testing thing in my head that I feel like that's a place to start. And, you know, so I'd love to have Jim come and explain what they do, what they need to do more testing and, you know, do something,
Yeah, you need the data to show that there is a problem.
Right.
right,
And that's the way to get the data,
Yeah,
is to
'cause
start testing the water.
right.
And if you go out there in a kayak or whatever boat you happen to commandeer to do Crystal Lake and find some stuff, we'll invite you back to a meeting and you can present it. We'll take it from there.
and I would say as you're testing, right, you're gonna also pick up some of the chemicals that are flowing into the lake from fertilizers and stuff, because people don't realize. So that data would be really helpful too, to make an argument. Because there are many people on the Lake Association who have very nice lawns.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Do not get a very nice lawn in a very natural way.
That's right.
Somebody told me the other day that
That's
they
the
didn't like
easy
my
way.
landscaping on my farm, and I was like, cool, it's all natural.
Are you kidding?
I mean,
Yeah.
they could get the same thing from using the lake water is so nutrient rich
Yeah,
that they could water their lawn with the lake water
Yeah,
and
but
not have to use.
People are fussy about the different plants. They wanna have a golf course, for Christ's sake, you know?
They shouldn't have come to the lake.
I know.
You know, but you know,
Well, I've
they see
been, I've
magazines.
been having them analyzed for phosphorus and nitrogens in the samples that I've been sending.
okay, so that would pick up some of this.
So, at least around Crystal Lake, I haven't found, or they haven't found high levels. But I don't think that that's necessarily true on Mascoma Lake.
Right, I agree.
And, so that kind of testing would also be useful.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, Carol, and I think we should probably pursue it. You know, I'm for it.
Because there's so many things we can be doing, but we have to start somewhere, and I feel
Well,
like this is doable. You know, this is something that we can handle. I feel like, you know, with us trying to support him, well, first we gotta find out what he needs
Mhm.
in order to do more
Yeah.
adequate. That's what I would be questioning. What do you need? What have you found to be the issues and?
Yeah. Then we need
And,
votes.
and then,
Well, the value of that data can also be used as a pressure on the legislatures to change their views regarding
Yeah.
septic systems and the
Yeah.
improvement of septic systems when you enlarge a place to a year-round residence. There's nothing like data to call them out for their lack of awareness.
Well, what we need to do is encourage more people that are, care about these things to run for legislator.
Well, yes, I agree with that. And Mr. Frack has been elected to represent this area, so we'll have an opportunity to make his view, but you have to realize that he's only one vote.
No, I just said we need to encourage more.
Yeah, you need to find out these politicians, what they're all about. And you never hear them talk about conservation when they're talking about their platform and what they're gonna do. Very rarely hear them say what they're gonna do for conservation. or
Well,
anything.
I'm not in favor of changing the way the legislature operates here. I'm very happy to see that they are in business 6 months out of the year, that they only receive a stipend while they're there, not a salary, because I've seen what's happened in California where they became fully salaried. I mean, a congressman in the state of California makes somewhere around $170,000 a year salary.
Well,
plus all the perks they get. So I don't think that that's the way to go, but what is necessary is to get non-business people to run for office, because when they're in session for 6 months, if you live in the northern part of New Hampshire, you almost certainly have to come down to Concord and stay there. And that means that a person with a 9-to-5 job cannot really afford to do that. So
Right.
what you get is people who are professional businessmen who own their own businesses or are retired that are able to run for those kinds of positions. And so that definitely skews the legislators' occupation for people who are in favor of development and who have ears to the lobbyists that are pushing that. So there's a problem there too, as to the equitable representation. Okay, any more business considerations, discussions?
No,
All right, recommendation for adjournment.
Make a motion, have him come and we'll second. it.
Oh, yeah.
Make it happen.
can I?
I just invite him. I don't think I have to.
Okay, all right.
Unless somebody has an opposition. we can
Yeah.
just
Let's just do it.
Where everybody.
See what he can give us for a date.
Is there a January meeting? There aren't any, yeah,
That's out of my hands now. There was when I
Sometimes we
was
do
here.
skip that meeting. Yeah.
okay.
You
But
have-
it's not anything listed on the,
It isn't listed?
on the website now.
Is
Ah.
it January?
Or
Don't meet
February, I don't know.
January?
Sometimes we haven't,
Yeah.
so,
Sounds good.
because what is it?
Not
Date?
since I've been on the commission, we've always had January meetings.
It would be
Since I've
January
been chair.
Usually
years.
it's summer,
January
August or
4th.
something.
What is the January date? I
Yeah.
forgot.
The-
Give me just
It
a
would be the
second.
4th.
What?
Yeah,
I wasn't
January
prepared to.
4th. I forgot all about this meeting. I was riding around Kangamunga Highway and I said, oh my God. Up on the Kangamunga, have you been up there lately?
Yes, I have
The
actually.
snow is, the banks are so high, you can't even see over 'em. I
Oh,
got
it wasn't
pictures.
when we went to Storyland the day, Sam's Village, the day after, Thanksgiving.
It's beautiful. It's like,
We got some whoopie pies here
Oh, well, pass them around.
to celebrate, well, for you, it's a celebration for
what
you, it's a
you've done,
disappointment
what
for
you've
us that
done.
you're leaving.
Oh, I'm
But,
sorry.
Well, as I said, I'm going to
We wanna
be
honor you.
consultation.
that's good.
yeah,
Well, pass them around. I think everybody would like to have a whoopie pie.
yeah,
Absolutely.
we'll let you take your first choice.
Oh.
would you guys like to adjourn?
No,
Yeah, do you want to
Yes.
make a motion?
the snowbanks is so,
Yeah, I can make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll
I
second.
second it.
These are pumpkin and those.
Aye.
We all second.
I changed my mind for Coralie's Christmas present,
What do you think?
pony.
Yeah,
Let's see.
she's not interested in taking care of the pony currently, so she can't have one.
Okay, cause she seemed to be always
She
busy.
was always interested in the pony, and then when we told her she had to get up and feed it,
Yes,
so
all of our allergies.
she's not allergic to horses. I had her
That's- 'cause
tested.
I could just visualizing her riding down by the beaver pond on all those trails.
She rode her bike down that hill,
Whoopie pie's coming down this way.
terrifying.
I'll take one of those non-chocolate.
I made her wear,
Pumpkin.
Yep.
Oh,
I made her wear
you
like
can smell
full
it as it
protective
goes
gear.
by.
Yeah, I can smell it over here.
Ah,
Yeah,
Very good.
Lindsay
Thank you,
Smith
Rob.
is gonna, I'll track down a class with Lindsay. She loves that. I think that's a great idea. And I bought her the next size up life vest,
Did you?
so she can paddle.
I did.
Because we have never,
got it.
ever, as a family paddled in
Nope.
Spectacle Pond or the golf
Well,
course.
I want to thank all of you for your cooperation and assistance in.
I was thinking of getting
Committee.
live for a metal
Thank you.
detector.
Thank you for this.
When you said I could have think
card.
about
I
that.
will
Well,
Put it in.
I think it would be fabulous that Curly breaks everything.
Okay.
She's still kind of rough.
Want to thank you.
They're like, oh, I do the little girls. She's like,
Well, as I said, I'm still available for that kind of thing,
Good.
Okay.
but, Chair, whoever you decide gets in touch with me and asks me for some help in researching something, I'll still be willing to do that. And I'm gonna continue the water sampling. Because I'm gonna pay for that out of my own pocket anyway, so it doesn't affect the conservation commission funds at all.
You're welcome to sample in front of our house anytime.
Our hearts. I'm gonna get a boat. I can't swim that well.
You don't want to be swimming with a water sample bottle.
I
That's
I
complicated.
can lend you my jet ski if you want to use that.
Ooh, we could make you a pool noodle raft.
Oh, yeah.
And we could like set it up with like all the, cause you could in the pool noodle drill individual holes, so your test bottle, so you wouldn't, as you took it, right? We could do that and then have like a tray for the, you know how, right?
But they.
We do, in manufacturing, we do a lot of sampling, like when something goes wrong, like for the oil water mix or something. I, that's thank you.
I don't think we got that.
I am celiac disease, which
No, I
is
get out on the.
really great during Christmas. Because I don't gain any weight.
Well,
I can
all the
decide.
ones left over are yours.
No, my son is living with me as a type 1 diabetic. And I don't like to have things around as too much of a temptation. So you may divide them up amongst yourself or whatever you wish, but I'm not taking any.
I like those pumpkin ones.
The smell is fantastic. That's what really, I like the smell of things.
This is a tough time of year, you know? Cookies about, oh my God,
See, if you had celiac disease, you wouldn't eat
I
them.
know.
But
There's
the-
advantages to everything.
The cheese is really an issue. The
Yep.
cheese is fabulous.
I'm
We
gonna
asked
scoot
Colin
out.
about a cheese.
Been on the road all
cheese
day.
calendar.
I'm exhausted.
You
I need
can
to
or
go too.
can't.
I can have
So
sugar.
how's it out there in your senior
Yeah.
center?
Ugh,
I love
Uh,
Too
cheese.
freaking hard.
Yeah,
Have you-
it's the hard.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
for me,
cooking
that
all
is
washing.
everywhere.
Washer, Meals on Wheels,
You
guy,
know, it's just.
freaking exhausted.
And I love sweets.
Well, I've
It's
been,
salty.
one of
I
ours
just
had
really like
surgery,
cheese.
so I've been doing it a couple times a week, delivering, but that, I mean, that's,
Oh, yeah, I deliver too.
do you really deliver? Yes.
I'm the young guy, so I'm the one that gets to do all the heavy work, you know, lifting the boxes, lifting the milk crates, anything that's heavy that's going in and out of the oven.
Oh, yeah.
I'm young, I'm the young guy.
I'm the old guy, nice to know, you know. In fact, I was somewhere in Enfield delivering way out in the bookies. The Canaan Senior Center.
Thank you all. Take care. Have a Merry Christmas.
Way out.
Merry Christmas. Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take care, Jerry.
I will.
Right.
Yes.
My double fist.
Well,
Mm.
there's a telephone in my house. You can call me anytime you want. Okay.
You'll see him floating around,
Yeah, that's
taking
right.
samples.
I call him, I try and say.
That's what life jackets are for. That's why I bought my kid another one for Christmas.
Okay, my wife is gonna kill me if I bring these all home, so people need to take.
I can't.
You
Can't.
got,
No, I can't take all those. I can't.
take
I'll
a.
take
I
a
have a whole
I'll
bunch of
take
kids
a
if you want me to
pumpkin.
take
I'd
them.
love to have it with coffee in the morning.
I mean, that's That's a good
You
idea.
wanna
I'll bring them to the senior center tomorrow. I'll get you.
Yeah,
Okay.
friends in Mascoma had people in.
I'm gonna shoot them over.
Tell you that's what I would do, right? I
Yeah.
totally hate the
Yeah, I'll take the pumpkin one.
Okay.
Someone else take the chocolate.
And there's
There
only
we
two
go.
of them left, so that's.
I can't.
There you will go.
Carol, are you going to Florida? I mean, not